Science feels like a path that leads forward. Each discovery pushes ignorance back. Each equation replaces mystery with understanding. It is tempting to believe that if science continues long enough, nothing will remain unexplained. That reality itself will be fully mapped, fully described, fully absorbed into knowledge. But physics itself points toward a different conclusion. Science does not end because it fails. It ends because explanation reaches a boundary, and beyond that boundary, reality does not disappear. Something remains. The question is not what science explains, but what is left when explanation can go no further. Science operates by identifying patterns. It discovers regularities, expresses them as laws, and uses them to predict behavior. This method has been extraordinarily successful, but it relies on assumptions it cannot justify. It assumes that reality is consistent, that patterns persist, that mathematics maps onto the world. These assumptions are not proven by science. They are required for science to exist. When explanation advances far enough, these assumptions come into view. They stop being invisible. At that point, science has not failed. It has arrived at its own foundation. And foundations are not explained. They are encountered. This is where science ends in a precise sense. Not in ignorance, but in acknowledgement. Physics can tell you how the universe behaves once it exists. It can tell you how structure evolves, how matter interacts, how time relates to space. It cannot tell you why there is a universe at all. It cannot tell you why explanation works. It cannot tell you why reality is intelligible rather than opaque. These are not gaps waiting for future theories. They are limits built into explanation itself. The end of science is not the absence of knowledge. It is the recognition of what knowledge cannot reach. Beyond that point, reality is still there. It does not dissolve because description stops. Existence does not depend on explanation. The universe does not require theories to function. It functioned long before science existed. It will function long after. Science is a lens, not a generator. When the lens reaches its limit, what remains is not darkness. It is presence without description. This idea is unsettling because it removes the promise of total understanding. It suggests that reality is not something you can fully capture. But that has always been true. Every scientific model is partial. Every theory is effective within a domain. Even a final theory, if one exists, would still presuppose logic, mathematics, and consistency. Those presuppositions would not be explained by the theory. They would remain as givens. Something always remains outside the frame. This is not a weakness of science. It is a feature of explanation. Explanation requires a background. It cannot explain the background itself. When science reaches that background, it stops not because it is exhausted, but because it has reached what makes it possible. At that point, the role of science changes. It no longer expands outward. It reflects inward. It tells you what kind of universe you are in. A universe where explanation is powerful, but bounded. Where structure exists without justification. Where reality does not owe itself to reason. This is where reality begins in a deeper sense. Not as a set of laws, but as the fact that there is something to have laws. Reality begins where explanation ends because explanation is something reality does, not something reality needs. This distinction matters. It prevents confusion between map and territory. Science produces maps. Even the best map is not the land. When the map reaches its edge, the land does not stop. You simply run out of representation. The mistake is to assume that what cannot be mapped does not exist. Reality is larger than any description. This is not mysticism. It is restraint. Physics itself demands it. Every time physics encounters a boundary, it does not declare reality unknowable. It declares its own method limited. That humility is one of science's greatest strengths. The end of science is therefore not silence. It is clarity about what science is. Science is not a worldview. It is a tool. It does not tell you what exists in the deepest sense. It tells you how what exists behaves. When you expect more, you misunderstand it. What remains when science ends is not superstition, not belief, not speculation. What remains is existence itself, structure without explanation, presence without reason, a universe that works without justification. This does not diminish the value of science. It elevates it by placing it correctly. Science becomes one way reality reflects on itself, not the final arbiter of being. You are part of that reflection. You use science to understand patterns, but you live inside what cannot be fully patterned. The deepest truths are not equations. They are constraints, limits, facts that do not answer why questions because there is no deeper layer to appeal to. Reality begins where science ends because science is an activity within reality. It cannot step outside to explain the container it lives in. That container does not become mystical when unnamed. It remains what it always was, there, working, existing. The question of what remains when science ends is therefore simpler than it seems. What remains is the universe itself, not as an object of explanation, but as the condition that makes explanation possible. This realization does not close inquiry, it grounds it. It tells you where knowledge stands and where it stops. And in that stopping, something essential becomes visible. Reality does not need to be explained to exist. It needs only to be consistent. Science is a way of discovering that consistency. When the discovery ends, consistency remains. And so does the universe. This is Veritas Labs, where truth is tested.